Hello, and welcome to Developmental Talent. Your ear holes are about to be crammed full of the most action-packed wrestling podcast on the entire fucking planet. And it's exclusively on freaksugar.com. Now, here are your hosts, hailing from parts unknown, Brandon Vanhook and Lemon Juice McGee.
Welcome back to another episode of Developmental Talent, where we bring you the highs, lows, ups and downs, and highlights of professional wrestling this week. And kicking it with me, as always, is my co-host, Lemon Juice McGee. What's up, buddy?
Not a lot. Just finished Monday Night Raw and the special match on the network, which we'll be getting into shortly. Glad everybody's listening in, and thank you all for the listen so far. Doing pretty good. With us tonight is our wrestling historian, Hogie Masters.
What's up, Hogie?
And we're going to get right into things. Last week was fairly WWE-heavy. This week, not as much, but we will be kicking things off as usual with Keeping It Raw.
Keeping it raw.
Tonight's segment covers all the crazy-ass shit we saw on the November 3rd episode of Monday Night Raw. Kicking things off today was a surprise. A welcome surprise. A McMahon surprise. As Vincent K. McMahon came out with Stephanie and Triple H at the beginning of the show.
I can't remember the last time I saw Vince on TV. I guess it was around the network launch, but it's always awesome to see Vince on TV.
That is, which, going back to the time with the network, that's what I figured the whole reason he was out there for was to, like, get the network, it's free this month, blah, 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 blah.
Now, to be fair, he did totally say that.
He did, but that's not the only reason he came out.
No.
He also unveiled a big announcement that if the Authority's team loses at Survivor Series, the Authority will no longer have power.
Yep. What that means for the landscape of WWE remains to be seen, whether to go back to a general manager situation, whether maybe Mr. McMahon himself would come back.
Or maybe if the Authority loses power, do they have to change their name? They'll have no more authority.
It's true.
Yeah.
We'll go back to like DX Light.
The McMahon Helmsley regime, or whatever they called it.
Yeah. It was definitely an interesting kickoff to Raw, and it set up a good storyline for the totality of the show. In that, as Vince left, kind of the warning was there again: if you lose, you're done. So Triple H and Steph kind of had that fire lit under their ass that they needed to build the best Survivor Series team possible.
Yeah, and at this point in time, in don't really want to say his career, but I guess his on-screen career, Vince has kind of graduated to that type of guy that you don't really boo anymore. He's Vince. You cheer him. And so he's kind of like what we talked about Hogan last week, where Hogan's just a guy that you love to see him, and it's awesome that you see him. And so he's going to come out and he's going to be against the Authority just by proxy of that.
Yeah. After that, things kicked off with Dean Ambrose, who actually came down as the Authority were leaving the ramp, got a little handshake from Mr. McMahon, got in the ring, facing off against Cesaro.
Cesaro in this match went out bleeding the hard way. Although it was on the commercial, and they went out talking about it after we came back from break.
Yeah, apparently he had his forehead busted open a little.
Yeah, which also during the break, Bray Wyatt came out and brought his rocking chair and sat up there on top of the entrance ramp and watched the match.
Yeah, and after it was over, Ambrose won, of course. The lights go out, lights come back up. There's just an empty fucking rocking chair, rocking magically.
I feel like this Ambrose and Wyatt confrontation that they're building toward it's be awesome. I mean, it's like a slow burn. They don't do slow burns anymore. You know, it's just I can't wait to see this.
Oh yeah. And then apparently Bray Wyatt has a big secret of Dean Ambrose's, which we have yet to find out. Which hopefully soon we will.
Yeah. no clue what they're gonna say happened or that Dean has done, but
Yes.
I'm sure it's some.
I bet he killed a man.
unsettling. Maybe
I bet he killed a man.
that is a possibility.
That is a very, very possibility with Dean Ambrose.
Perhaps he and Luke Harper are truly brothers.
Maybe he was in the White Clan and escaped or something beforehand.
Lost his memory.
Yeah.
We're gonna skip around a little bit on Raw because while it was a decent enough show, it also sucked in a number of ways.
Yeah.
Mostly the pacing of the thing. Overall, the entire night, the Authority, watching the television, any person they thought would join their side, they would put feelers out to see if they wanted to join, and that included Rusev. I know they scouted out Mark Henry. Apparently, Rusev and Lana agreed to join the team if Vladimir Putin allows it. So they're going to go talk to him because that's what they do.
Well, Vladimir Putin, very avid watcher of Raw, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want. I mean, he'll hit the star away.
It could help dictate his foreign policy. We don't
True.
know.
It could.
You never know. Back in the day, they used to have the Nitro parties. Maybe he has a big Raw party every Monday night.
You never know.
His big
Yeah.
mansion or something.
He's just shirtless on a horse watching Raw.
Yeah, out in the tundra. Now, what Raw felt like to me, everybody has their favorite TV show, and sometimes those TV shows have like filler episodes. Cena wasn't on Raw, so it really felt like an exposition-filled episode where all they did is talk about what they want to do, and nothing that mattered really happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you start watching Raw at 8 o'clock and at 11 o'clock, you've not really gotten anywhere.
Well, one thing. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah. But it kind of it's like running in place is what Raw's tonight was. Is what.
Yeah. Which, the storyline for the Big Authority versus Team Cena feud, they didn't do a lot with it. The only thing really was they had Dolph Ziggler come out, and the Authority tried to persuade him to join their side, and
He refused.
yeah,
In,
and then,
in Ziggler fashion.
yeah, which
But Triple H brought some very good points about how he does bust his ass and no one really recognizes him for
that's
it.
very true.
That's true.
And it led into Ziggler saying no, and him and Rollins having a little match.
Yeah.
Which was interrupted at the end by an RKO out of nowhere by Randy
Yes,
Orton.
completely out of nowhere, as Randy Orton had not been on television up to that point.
So I guess it's pretty safe to say who won't be on Team Authority. Randy Orton looks like he's done with Seth Rollins.
Well, they actually set that up later in the night. The main event, which we'll get to in a little while, is Orton versus Rollins as the main event. So they're going to give them a chance to get their hands on each other and kind of work out their differences like men, I suppose, or boys or whatever. The 10 o'clock main event, Big Show versus Mark Henry.
Yes, which was storylines built up from last week's Raw. Started out, just how their usual match goes, just back and forth beat down on one another. And Henry got himself disqualified by picking up the steel steps and throwing them at Big Show. Mm-hmm. That led to a utter beatdown on Big Show.
And it did not stop there, as he gave the world's strongest slam to Big Show on the lower base of the stairs.
I think some people are going to be like, man, they've feuded before. And they have. But I think Big Show and Mark Henry are two of the guys who it's almost like you don't appreciate it till it's gone. Like, Big Show has been a part of wrestling since I can remember wrestling almost. And Mark Henry's been around for almost as long, too. So, yeah, people may get tired of, okay, these two guys. But it's two big dudes who look like they could seriously hurt each other. And they're not going to. But it looks like there's going to be some good matches between two guys who just beat each other up. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Henry's looking really fierce right now. Which I always prefer him being over the happy-go-lucky sexual chocolate-ish Mark Henry.
It feels forced when he's that. Yeah.
He's gone back to the Hall of Fame Mark Henry from a few years back.
Yeah. Maybe they'll have another chair match.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
TLC's on the horizon.
Maybe Big Show will cry in an interview again.
Maybe.
Stranger things have happened.
I would bet you that before the end of the year, Big Show cries at least one more time.
He cried. It looked like he was crying tonight after Mark Henry beat him down.
Yeah. Not only did Mark Henry beat down Big Show, but he had an insult to injury by pulling out the "This is what I do" T-shirt and laying it across the prone body of Big Show. So we hooked him up with some merch, I guess.
Well, yeah. Big Show hasn't had a shirt in forever, so maybe he's rubbing that in too. Like, I have a shirt, I have a catchphrase.
What would be funnier if Big Show literally hasn't had a shirt in years? Like, he just doesn't own a shirt.
He wears a singlet everywhere.
He wears a singlet everywhere.
Well,
his arms and shoulders just chafed from wearing that constantly.
Back when Stephanie was going by his house, I mean, there's a fair chance she could ball his clothes too.
That's true.
He might not have anything other than that singlet now. You don't know.
He probably went back to the locker room and just cried over that shirt. That's the only shirt he has.
It was a size too small.
Getting into it real quick without it becoming too much of this segment, because I don't feel like it really deserves it. Los Matadores picked up another win over the Dust Brothers, who are the current tag team champions. Granted, it was through interference with the Miz and Mizdow and a fucking Tiny Bull and all this other stuff, but still, they're letting them pin the champs. So, is it because they think that Los Matadores are a better team, or is it possibly that they just have no other like good guy tag teams to take the spot?
I can't think of anybody besides the Usos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of the Usos, I feel like the Matadors are that same type of tag team, to where if they do wind up going into a program with the Dust Brothers, it's going to essentially feel like that the Dust Brothers have been feuding with the Usos, or not the Usos, the Matadors for the last 30 years that they did in the Matador. Yeah, it's just like I'm getting them confused because in my mind the program's going to be the same. It's going to be the same type of feud where, you know, it's just not going to be. I don't know. They need to bring up more tag teams, or make tag teams. I mean,
yeah. The thing is like from NXT, like the Ascension, if they come up, I mean, yeah, they could go up against Goldust and Stardust, but in the current storyline of them being badass Stardust and Goldust, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay for Goldust and Stardust to act like badasses until two guys who actually are legitimate badasses show up. And then they look like punks.
That's true.
You know?
I feel like people prefer to cheer Goldust and Stardust.
Oh yeah.
You know, even with them being the way they are, nobody's booing them right now.
Right.
So I mean, they're more fun, just being creepy, funny dudes. And
yeah, because Cody is more funny than he is creepy. I mean, Goldust can pull off the villainous, you know, like sinister, but Cody either acts like he's trying to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's Cody. I mean, you can't really do, like, you know, angry Cody unless he's wearing a mask and put bags over people's faces.
Speaking of tag teams, or former tag teams, sort of, we saw a couple Wyatt family members tonight.
Yes.
Which, of course, earlier tonight we saw Bray. We see a promo in the middle of the night that it's just a bunch of eyeballs, people. Like, lots and lots of fucking eyeballs. And pretty sure it's Luke Harper.
Yeah, it feels like that's probably who it is.
But it was creepy and awesome.
Yeah, and it's different enough from the Wyatt promos that it's not like, oh, this is Luke from the Wyatts doing this. It's like he's a new thing.
Yes.
You know? I mean,
This is crazy Luke Harper that is talking like he might wear your skin. It wasn't very specific. Later in the night, Renee Young's doing interviews, and then standing next to her, surprisingly enough, is Rowan, still wearing a sheep mask, a heavily taped and abused sheep mask, I might add.
Yes.
You can see that thing has had some wear to it. He reaches out and strokes her hair, pulls up his mask, and then says, "Pretty." I feel like they were trying to put off a vibe of, like, sinister, unknowing, like to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it just came off in that kind of Frankenstein monster, like, I don't know any better, I'm going to accidentally drown this girl type of way.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that maybe they'll expound upon that in the future.
I immediately thought of Kane, back when he still had the mask. He didn't have the voice box anymore, but it was like him and Tori, or him and Lita. Like, Kane was really sort of awkward around the women, too, at first. And
Yeah, Kane got a lot of women around that time.
yeah, he did. He
Well,
did.
Kane is kind of, yeah.
Got Lita knocked up, and then Snitsky kicked it.
That's true.
Kicked Kane's demon baby.
It wasn't his fault.
Well, not throw off the apron, that's what happened. And then Snitsky came out later and kicked one. Okay.
Yeah. It was a mess, basically.
It was a mess.
He was with AJ Lee for a while.
Yeah.
That's true.
But maybe a mask. Guys, just get a mask. Burn your parents. And if people women feel sorry for you, and they'll throw themselves at you.
Yeah, hunt your brother.
It's all
a thing.
Half brother. Lock your real dad in the freezer. Whatever. You know, do what you need to do.
I mean, is there anything we need to talk about before the main event? Anything else that kind of came up that you guys are interested in hitting up? I mean, Raw was kind of, you know, I mean, it was 3 hours, but
well, it was cool to see Vince. It's always cool to see Vince. He's always coming out and doing something big. That's really the only thing, you know. I don't know. It's.
Well, the one huge thing that happened on tonight's Raw came from the main event of Orton versus Seth Rollins. First off, the match ended stupid as fuck.
Yeah, it ended in a backslide by Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
Yeah, RKO, right?
He dodged the RKO. And
dodged the RKO.
And then backslide. Orton's legs weren't on the ropes. He just openly beat him in the middle of the ring with a backslide because that's what happens now.
Also, it's like Mercury and Noble are Rollins' goons as opposed to being Authority goons. So they seem to follow him everywhere.
Yeah, I think they're like assigned to him, like his tiny protectors.
They're his Secret Service.
Yeah. And you don't realize how short Mercury and Noble are, and I guess how short I am for that matter, until you see them standing next to Randy Orton.
Oh, yeah.
And he towers over them.
Randy Orton's a lanky bastard, though. I mean,
that's true. But the match ended. Orton goes to the top rope. Well, holding the top rope. He's not like on the top rope. That would be awesome, but no. And he's talking to Triple H outside the ring, and he's like, "What do you want me to do? I want to kill these guys, but you won't let me." Paraphrasing here.
Triple H said to calm down about 800 more times.
Yeah, so he goes back in the ring, and he shakes Mercury's hand, shakes Noble's hand, shakes Kane's hand, starts to shake Rollins' hand. Shit gets real. After that, chaos ensues.
Yes.
RKO to Rollins. He finally got to eat one of those. Set up for the punt kick.
Yeah, and then Triple H comes in and stops it and tries to calm Randy down again. Which
by sort of like doing what you do to maybe a puppy or a child, and you put your forehead against theirs lovingly. Look into their eyes and tell them to not RKO people.
The thing is, though, Randy Orton is not a puppy or a child. He's a snake.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so he tried to storm away.
Yeah.
And Triple H grabbed his arm. And so Orton quickly turned, like a viper may do.
Yeah.
And punched Triple H in his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Which then led to problems for Randy Orton.
Yeah, the entire Authority jumped on him and beat him down and took him outside, and Stephanie was ordering Triple H to have him finish it. Triple H hesitated and finally gave the order to finish him off, which led to them pitting Orton on the steps and Rollins delivering a curb stomp.
Yep, and that was the second curb stomp of the night. Right before he was curb stomped onto the announce table, his forehead looked to hit a microphone jack and split his forehead open. He was bleeding pretty profusely.
I'll tell you, I bet Randy Orton hates announce tables.
Oh, yes.
If he gets around them, he bleeds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's
He's hitting TV screens.
TV screens,
He seems like he's always hitting them wrong.
Yep. I think it's a little too early to say maybe that Orton has maybe sided with Cena so much as he's just against the authority.
Yeah. They took him out on a stretcher with the injury. We know he's been written off because he's filming a WWE Studios movie, The Condemned Part 2. But it being a WWE Studios production, that means that they're kind of in charge of when they're filming, so there's still a chance that he'll be maybe a surprise entrance on the Cena team at Survivor Series, or he might just show up and RKO the shit out of somebody and cause the Cena team to win.
That's true. And Ambrose also went from the movie. He was back fairly quick.
Yeah, he was back in a matter of like a week or two.
About 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, but for the next few weeks, don't expect to see Orton on TV. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of Rollins gloating, and there'll be a ton of WWE promo videos showing that over and over.
Oh,
Yeah. And I think the authority learned tonight that you should never trust a snake.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully Randy will become sort of the I'm for me and just fuck everybody.
Yeah.
And just do that because that's the Randy I like.
A big thing though is him being off for any amount of time. It's just going to be hard. I mean, the WWE is currently kind of struggling to keep. Well, as we saw tonight, Cena was gone.
Yeah.
Whoever thinks that not having Cena on TV would be a bad thing, yet when he's not on there, it's like they kind of lose direction.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the same thing as look at Hogan, WCW. Look at WCW before they got Hogan. Now, after Hogan, it's got a direction now.
Yeah.
I mean, even if the show is all about Cena, it's still a show that's moving in a direction where Cena is the focal point. Without him, you got stuff going on like crazy to make up for the fact that everybody's favorite guys on there.
And some of it is they're afraid to pull the trigger on pumping some of these guys as good as
That's
like
true.
Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose is crazy popular right now, and they've got him in a program with Bray Wyatt. Who I still, as awesome as can be, I still feel like they should be in two separate programs, so they have two separate really good programs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But why did that match open? Why did him and Cesaro, with Bray showing up, open the show?
I think that one seems like it's more about Cesaro than it was Ambrose. Because Cesaro seems to have been on a slump lately. And that, I mean, for whatever reason, it's happening. It seems like that he's just not gotten a win in a while. And so I feel like that's probably more about Cesaro not winning than it is about Ambrose opening the show. I don't know, though.
Because, you've got Rusev and Sheamus. I'm sure that's going to go back and forth for a while now.
Oh, yeah.
The Authority against Team Cena, which is also dragging in 5 other wrestlers for Team Cena.
I thought Team Cena will have a few surprises. I just got a feeling that, because Authority is going to obviously have all the heavy hitters.
Yeah. I think now would definitely be a good time. I mean, maybe they went to Survivor Series, maybe that's how they could do it, but I feel like it's maybe time for them to bring in a crop of NXT guys and start to push them a little bit, make the guys who are there now seem even more like veterans than they are, and kind of fill some of these holes, because, you can wait on Roman Reigns to come back, and, that's great, but it could be a while. And Daniel Bryan, he may not.
Yeah, he may not. I think right now Ryback is filling in the Roman Reigns spot, and he's doing it better because Ryback, people were behind him the whole time he was out there.
Well, he's back. He's back to what he was when he first came out as Ryback.
Yeah, he's destroying people.
And they're chanting "Feed me more," and he's not inciting it.
Right,
they're doing it.
Yeah, they're behind it.
And he's back to doing the meat hook clothesline and the shell shock and pinning people and getting to it.
I would rather see Brock and Ryback than I would Reigns and Brock. I feel like that. I just feel like the Brock is so imposing that he's gonna make Reigns look less imposing.
Yeah.
But against like Ryback is
or-
a big dude.
yeah.
It doesn't matter how tall he is.
Whether it's stupidity or what, like Ryback doesn't seem like he would be like overly intimidated. Like,
Yeah, Ryback-
He's like, fuck it, let's fight.
Yeah, he would, and it would be a good fight. And maybe they can get that. They almost had it at one point in time.
Yeah.
They didn't really pull a trigger on it because he's just filling in for Cena.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Everyone's always filling in for someone right now, it seems like.
Yeah.
And they need to just say, okay, well, when that person comes back, we'll see what they can do. But until then, you know, you just their spot doesn't exist. You are that spot now.
Yeah, because it's not like John Cena's going to come back and people are like, oh, well, who's this John Cena guy? You know?
Yeah.
I mean...
No, it's like I felt like they held Brian's spot for a long time until they saw that he
wasn't coming back.
Wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, that's kind of, you know, I mean, granted, you're going to do that if your main guy's gone. But there's a point where you've got to just move people in there. And I feel like maybe they just need to do that a little faster than what they've been doing.
Well, yeah, because I guess the holding Reigns spot for Reigns, he's supposed to be back, I guess, in a month or two. But,
yeah.
I mean, that's not really...
It's a lot of TV, though.
Yeah, that's okay to do when you have 4 or 5 other guys, but you don't. Right now, you have Cena and you have, I guess, Reigns. And sort of Ziggler.
And Ambrose.
Ambrose.
Ziggler and Ambrose. Yeah.
I feel like they won't... I don't know. I feel like Ambrose, though, surprised them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like Ambrose is probably working the programs that they wanted him to anyway, despite... Ambrose, I feel like it's a Brian situation. Where people are so behind him, they'll have no choice but to get behind as a company.
Unless the secret from Bray is that he eats babies. That's going to kill some momentum.
Nah. I don't think. I mean, as long as he doesn't do it live on air.
That's true. I don't know. Of course, we could be coming off the high that was Hell in a Cell, and maybe this week's show wasn't as bad as we're thinking it is. You know, it's just. I mean, last week's Raw was great, and Hell in a Cell was pretty fantastic. So it's, you know.
Yeah, but I think even if you add Cena back to it, it's like you say, coming down, and it's also a bad guy centric sort of Raw with the Authority scrambling to build up their team, and even if Cena had been there, I don't think that. I mean, what would have happened is you had Big Show walk up to Cena and be like, "I'll be on your team," and you know it would have been the same thing, really.
Yeah, this is one of those. It's one of those times where there'll be a lull. I feel like most of this month. With the go-home show to Survivor Series being the exception as being the, you know, where they possibly finalize the teams or someone gets hurt and then all of a sudden there's a spot open. Who's going to fill it? You know, like that type of
Survivor Series.
Yeah. Which at one time I was hoping it was going to be Daniel Bryan, but that's not going to be the case.
No.
At all.
Maybe you got like a Wade Barrett or somebody.
Yeah,
that's a possibility.
Barrett might come back.
But I feel like he would be on Team Authority. I mean, well, maybe, unless they've just changed. The Bad News Bear character, I feel like, would be on Team Authority.
Maybe. Or maybe he'd come out and be like, Authority, I got some bad news.
That's true, too.
Because he was kind of, I don't know. I mean, people were behind him.
I don't know. Let's just all cross our fingers and hope it's the current NXT General Manager, William Regal.
Yeah, this is sort of the time of year where you just gotta. I don't know why they never built a Survivor Series well, but they only seem to throw things together in the Survivor Series, and it used to be one of the big deals.
I think some of it is they don't have a set format.
Yeah.
It's not like where you have a Cell or where you have like the Rumble. Survivor Series has been done so many different ways that. You know, it's just whatever fits the time.
It was a lot better when they had the draft, or not the draft, the split. Yeah. And then you could have Team Raw and Team SmackDown, nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, or back in the day when every match was a 5-on-5.
Yeah, I love those. Those are some of my favorites.
Yeah. I wish they'd just vacate the title because I feel like they kind of need to, and then just do Survivor Series tournament for the belt.
That would be great.
That would be awesome. Or King of the Ring or something. Tournaments are awesome, and
they are, especially when it's in one night pay-per-view, and you know, it's great.
I mean, where would Stone Cold Steve Austin be without the King of the Ring tournament? Probably still Stone Cold Steve Austin, but but that was his launching pad. You know, that was the Austin Dudes at Cena thing.
All right. I think that's plenty for keeping it raw. Next up, we're going to talk about a very special $9.99 match of the week.
The $9.99 Match of the Week.
That's right. This is the segment where we give you a hidden gem on the WWE Network, something worth your time, worth watching and digging through for. Normally, tonight's a little bit different, as the WWE decided, post-Raw, to give an exclusive match on the network between Rusev and Sheamus for the U.S. title.
Yeah, the first exclusive match on the WWE Network after Raw, which I hope they do more of these in the future. You know, this should be a selling point to the network at some point. But the actual match itself, let's talk about Rusev versus Sheamus for the United States title. Things I noticed in this match, a lot of rest holds because, both bigger guys they get tired out. But Rusev taking a lot of punishment, and probably, the most punishment I've seen Rusev take.
I agree on they should do the post-match thing more often. I think, honestly, that would be a big selling point for the network. But the match, though, it was a back-and-forth contest. There was one time, honestly, we thought Sheamus won from the way the count looked, but Rusev kicked out and ultimately got the win and is now the U.S. champion.
Yeah, Rusev did take far more punishment than he's ever taken in any of his W matches so far. The fact that he was forced to sit there on the apron and take the 10 beats of the Bowery, God, I hate that move. It was back and forth enough to where Sheamus could have beat the streak, and that could have been the selling point for the match.
It made Sheamus look pretty strong to put that kind of a beating on Rusev. And Sheamus passing out in the accolade and then having the announcer say that he gave up. I don't like that. You know, that's the second time that's happened in the past couple weeks, you know. Yeah. I believe they should specify more. It doesn't make Sheamus look weak to pass out in the hold, a la Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart. So it was a good match.
Yeah. An interesting fact they announced, which I didn't know, is that Sheamus has never tapped out.
Yeah, I honestly had to think back to that. The only person right off the top of my head that he possibly even could have, maybe Cena.
Yeah.
In the STF.
Yeah, you'd have to go deep in the vault to look that up because I'm not sure about that either. But I'm sure about one thing: Rusev is the new U.S. champ. So we shall see where it goes from here.
He is going to be a lot of propaganda and flags and bullshit and I'm better than all Americans because I have your title. And
will it be renamed the Russian Championship?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, because I remember. It's been a while back. There's either talk or it actually got done or something, changing one of the belts to like a British title or something. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Or will he take spray paint a la Hulk Hogan and spray paint Putin on it?
He might.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Will there be a photoshopped picture of Putin holding the U.S. title on the Titantron?
I'll put money on that right now. Who wants to take that bet?
So that is your $9.99 match of the week. It's on currently on the network. Chances are they're going to replay that thing 1,000 times this week. Oh, yeah. But if you want to search it, it'll be readily available. Worth the watch simply because it is a current title change, which will affect the WWE moving forward. To what degree, I don't know. I guess somebody's going to have to beat Rusev.
Now it's time for you to grab a drink, gather around for fully articulated wrestling.
And it's another installment of Fully Articulated Wrestling. It's kind of some big news coming out of the wrestling world this week as Ring of Honor has signed a toy deal with Figures Toy Company. You'll know them from making replica belts and some pretty horribly shitty action figures that no one wants. It makes me worried about Ring of Honor having a license with them, but at the same time, maybe they'll farm it out to Jax or some of these other companies. But I mean, for Ring of Honor to get a toy deal, it's kind of a big thing.
Yeah. It's not the first step in, I hate to say legitimizing a company, because I feel like Ring of Honor is a legitimate company, but if they have toys and kids know them, I feel like that's one step closer to being on the national stage.
Which, going back to the kid thing, that the toy thing also could broaden their horizons, get more viewers of all different ages.
Yeah. I'm hoping that if the toys do suck, that at least they'll have laser skinned heads that'll match up maybe with Mattel bodies. So make some customs. I don't know. I'm super excited. Don't get me wrong. But the track record of their horribly shitty action figures. I don't know. We're going to see how it goes, but they could surprise us. I kind of have a lineup for figures I think should be in the first set. There's normally anywhere between 5 to 7 figures in an action figure series. My thoughts for Series 1, and this is based kind of in the same way that Jax did the TNA figures. You have a basic set, and then you have a legend or a classic figure to stick in there. So first set would be the Briscoes, whether that be a 2-pack or individual figures. The development time when these were being made, since supposedly Ring of Honor is going to announce them soon, means that at the time Jay wasn't singles competitor. They were obviously tag team. Michael Elgin, Adam Cole, who would come with the championship belt, Jay Lethal, who would have the TV title, AJ Styles. This would probably be pre the IWGAP belt, but at the same time, I don't think they could make that anyway because of
the copyright with New Japan and everything.
The classic figure for the line would be Bryan Danielson with the robe.
Yeah, I think Bryan Danielson would be a good pick. And also, Ring of Honor has a good relationship with the WWE. And the WWE may even see Bryan Danielson as a completely separate thing than Daniel Bryan. So I don't think it'd be a problem.
I could see them doing Bryan Danielson, and also there's 2 other ones I could possibly see them doing. Jushin Thunder Liger and maybe Steve Corino.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. They do like a classic Corino.
Yeah.
Low key would be another one to do because he was one of the first Ring of Honor champions.
That's true.
Yeah. But like I say, it all depends on who they go through. If something happened and they did work something out with Jax, who isn't really producing a large amount of wrestling figures with TNA, so maybe they've got some openings and they've got all the equipment and they've got the bodies. They've got AJ Styles already input. They got Jay Lethal input already. It wouldn't be much for them to make more figures. One of the things I'm excited about, though, is that Figures Toy Company does make replica belts. They're the ones who put out the belts like you get at WWE house shows, and, of course, order online. The Ring of Honor titles right now, the replica belts, aren't really replica belts. They're basically the belts they give their champions. You pay for them. They are made especially for you. You're looking at a couple grand. If I can get a replica Ring of Honor belt for a few $100s, totally down for that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody wants the actual belt, but, being what it is, that when an actual belt costs you more than you make in a month or two, a lot of people can have that. But it's nice to have a copy of the belt, like a replica you can put up.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Even just like the toy ones you see in Walmart and everything, I'd love to see one of those for the Ring of Honor title.
Yeah. And conceivably they will. They put out the kid-size championships and all that. So that they have a wide variety. That is one thing I will say for them. Figures Toy Company, when it comes to action figures, and the belt especially, they do put out a large selection to choose from. I just really worry about quality. But part of that comes from me being used to collecting the current Mattel stuff, which is, it's really hard to beat anyway. But I don't want them to go back to like those horrible WCW figures that vibrated when you pushed a button in their side.
Well, the ones that didn't even move at all. Solid figures.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. So that's it for this week's Fully Articulated Wrestling. Lots of upcoming figures I've been picking up, so I may do a report here in the next week or two if any of them turn out to be better than expected.
This week in wrestling history.
It's that time again, folks. That time to think back and reminisce to the days of yore, when Hogie Masters regales us with tales of things from wrestling's history this week.
This week in wrestling history, back in 1995, November 6, 1995 to be exact, the Giant, who we all know as the Big Show, was stripped of the WCW World Heavyweight title due to a controversial finish prior to the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, where he won the match by disqualification against Hulk Hogan when Jimmy Hart, who was Hulk Hogan's manager at the time, interfered, causing the DQ. Then the next night, we learned that Jimmy Hart had put in the contract that the Giant could win the title by DQ. So therefore, the board of directors decided to strip him of this, leading into one of the biggest battle royals, not the biggest battle royal ever, the 60-man World War III.
I remember World War III. That was awesome.
I don't remember it at all.
It was just a big Royal Rumble where the winner was champion. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Seems like they've done it more than just that year, too.
Yeah, they did it for like 2 or 3 more years.
Yeah.
It was 3 rings, 20 men in each ring.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it got down to 20 men, those 20 went to one ring and fought it out to win, which the Macho Man ended up winning the first one, become the WCW champion.
So they had 3 rings in an arena.
Yes.
So they had nobody in the arena because they had no room for seats.
Well, in fairness, it was WCW. They probably had nobody in the arena.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it was a weird configuration too, because it wasn't a I don't think it was a T. I think it was like an L.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a weird formation.
Yeah.
How they all connected. And during the night, like the regular matches, like they would start in one ring and they might end up in another ring.
This is
Wrestling,
craziness.
just traveling ring to ring.
WCW had craziness.
Enough of that nonsense. Let's go to the next thing.
Okay. November 4th, 1996, one of the most infamous segments of Raw occurred. Pillman's Got a Gun.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Where, at the time, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Brian Pillman had a major feud going on, to where Austin went to Pillman's house.
In Walton, Kentucky.
That's right. And was going to beat the shit out of him. And Pillman's buddies were there trying to beat up Austin, and Austin still got through. And then Pillman was inside and had a 9mm in hand ready to go. And so Austin gets in the house, and Pillman's got this gun. He pointed right at him, and all of a sudden the feed gets lost. Comes back, and everybody's like, what happened? What happened? You know, did somebody get shot? And Austin ran out, and then he come back, and then Kevin Kelly's freaking out. Like, he's pulling his ear like Vince does sometimes.
Yeah, I remember that. I'll never forget Brian Pillman with his ankle busted up on the couch with his wife, sitting there screaming at Stone Cold. Stone Cold broke through his front door, and then it just cuts out. There were people whose parents wouldn't let them watch all of Raw because of that. They thought it was real. It was hardcore.
Yeah, like USA was pretty pissed off about this afterwards.
But I'll give it to Stone Cold. He left when he saw that gun. But he came right the fuck back because he doesn't care.
That's right, 'cause he's a badass.
That's right.
All right, moving on. November 5th, 2000, Steve Corino won the ECW title at the November to Remember, in which was a very interesting concept of match. It was called a Double Jeopardy match. It was between him, Sandman, Jerry Lynn, and Justin Credible. But the way the match worked was, it started out, all 4 men could fight each other. But Steve Corino and Sandman can only pin each other, and Jerry Lynn and Justin Credible can only pin each other. Then the 2 men who won out of the pinfalls would fight each other to become the ECW champion, which it ended up, it was a weird start of the match because Jerry Lynn, Justin Credible, and Steve Corino were all standing in the ring. No Sandman. And Sandman shows up like 5 minutes into the match. But he just stands in the crowd forever, drinking beer and doing his thing.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
He's the Sandman.
He just showed up and they duked it out. And then Steve Corino and Justin Credible both pinned their opposing opponents at the exact same time, which led to them and Steve Corino with the win become the ECW champion.
Steve Corino's king of hardcore, man. Or the king of old school. I'm sorry, not hardcore. I don't know. I just think it's to me it's silly that Sandman was in a world title match for any company because I remember him being in the crowd, drinking beers and handing them off to kids and smacking himself in the head with a cane. More, I remember him. I don't think I've seen a match that he was in it. You know?
Oh yeah, like it showed on there. Him opening a beer and just pouring it down people's mouths.
Yeah, I feel like at that point though, where I mean, it's sad to say because I liked actually all 4 competitors involved in that match. But when for your belt is Steve Corino and Just Incredible, that was obviously later in the ECW period, probably the TNT period.
Yeah, they I believe, which that was November, they shut down in March the following year.
Yeah. A lot of their guys had already exited by that point.
Yeah.
Now, the idea of the match, though, that's actually a pretty cool concept of a match. I like that idea.
It is. I mean, you have basically a 4-man tornado tag, kind of.
Yeah.
So where everyone can beat on everyone, but you can only pin a certain person. So, I mean, that's cool because it allows for double team moves and things like that. But
it's better than that damn football match that WWE had way back when. They had like 2 teams, and it was I don't know, it was weird.
I don't remember that one. But anyway, next up, November 5th, 2002. Edge and Rey Mysterio defeat Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle for the WWE Tag Team titles. Wasn't long after which the brand extension occurred, and there was 2 sets of tag titles. One, the World Tag Team titles stayed on Raw, and then the WWE Tag Team titles, there was a tournament. And the finals were originally Benoit and Angle versus Edge and Rey. And Benoit and Angle won, and then they had a rematch, and Edge and Rey picked up the victory.
So you had what may have been the most technically gifted tag team in the history of wrestling, and Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, against Edge, who's an amazing tag team competitor, and Rey Mysterio, who kind of loaned himself out to the tag teams during that time frame, it seems like, because he was with RVD and a bunch of people. Seems like he was in his tag teams every other week.
Batista,
yeah.
But moving on, another world tag team victory happened on November 5th, 2006. It was WWE's Cyber Sunday, in which Roddy Piper and Ric Flair, both Hall of Famers, together won the World Tag Team titles against the Spirit Squad.
And yes, you heard that correct. Roddy Piper and Ric Flair beat the Spirit Squad at Cyber Sunday. None of those words go together.
But you have no one to blame but yourselves, because Cyber Sunday was voted by the fans.
That is true. And the main event of that night was actually, it was claimed the winner would be the champion of champions. It was between the ECW champion Big Show, WWE champion John Cena, and the world champion Booker T. And they got to vote on which belt was on the line. It was Booker T's. Cena nearly won that belt, but was stopped by Kevin Federline, of all people. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean...
Cena used to rap. I guess.
It's one of those things that I feel like people forget about Kevin Federline being involved in WWE, yet are always quick to point out David Arquette being the WCW champion. Federline beat John Cena.
That's true.
Federline beat the current Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
That's very true.
Yep. I mean, at least Arquette...
Doesn't matter if it's disqualification. A W is a W.
At least Arquette had the good sense to tell people he did not need to have that belt, and they gave him anyway. So.
Yeah. That was, once again, back to WCW. That's what they did.
Yeah.
And that's about it. That's this week in wrestling history.
And there you go, guys.
Yep.
Until next week.
TNA Minute.
Yep, 1 minute. That's all it takes to cover a week of TNA. We're sad that this is the case, but it is. In fact, me talking is part of that minute. To finish off these 60 seconds, we're going to throw it to Matt Pierce to tell us what happened on this week's Impact Wrestling.
TNA, on Impact, they've been doing the tag title tournament. The team of Samoa Joe and Low Ki have moved forward into this tournament, and so has the Hardys. The team of Tyrus and EC3, though, they didn't. Still, I think that's a big deal. That'll be a good team. Big thing, though, was Bobby Roode versus Bobby Lashley for the world title. Roode won it, which is good because he's a homegrown talent, and he should get the belt. Lashley was a good champion. It was a good match. Back and forth. He was definitely not just a big, strong guy. But it's good to see, a homegrown guy get it. TNA's making some steps in the right direction.
The Figure 5.
This week's Figure 5 deals with men of mystery, men from parts unknown. To read us the list is Matt Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, hey guys, everybody's from somewhere. These guys are just from somewhere else, I guess.
Some unknown place.
Yeah, some part of some unknown place. The first guy we got up, number 5, is the Giant Gonzalez, who I'm sure all of you remember for his giant Sasquatch outfit.
And his giant airbrushed furry crotch.
Yeah, and also, if the match had been no DQ, he would have ended the streak.
That's true.
Chloroform
Because he took a chloroform rag and knocked the Undertaker out.
Yep. At
weird.
WrestleMania.
Which is weird considering Undertaker was dead. How do you knock out dead? Whatever, I don't know. But he did it. Next up, we have everyone's worst nightmare, an evil clown. WWE had their own evil clown, Doink. Later on, he became kind of a not so evil clown. They say he's from the mid top, whatever. But when he first came out, Doink was evil from parts unknown.
Yeah, he was a very creepy clown when he first began. Remember WrestleMania 9, him and Crush had a match in which another Doink appeared, and they said it was magic, and yeah.
Did you believe in the magic at the time?
Well, as a child, yes, but now I'm like, no, I don't think so.
It probably wasn't. Like there's a 25% chance it wasn't magic that there was a second Doink the Clown.
Yeah.
Next thing you guys will tell me there's no Santa Claus. Gosh.
Well, there's McFoley.
Yeah, I was about to say there's McFoley.
Who we got number 3?
Number 3, we got 2 guys.
Oh.
Everyone's favorite S&M Gimp tag team, Demolition.
Oh, man. Technically 3.
That's true.
Crush.
That's true. Crush.
I mean, still to this day, I am a huge Demolition fan. I love their entrance music. I've always been a huge fan of them.
I never really saw them as the Road Warriors ripoff that everybody seems to... I mean, I guess that's really what they are, but I never really saw them as that. I saw them as more of a Mad Max, Lords Among Us thing.
Yeah, which is kind of, I guess, what the Road Warriors are as well, because of the shoulder pads. But, yeah, being a kid, I was totally down for any Mad Max-related things, especially in my wrestling. But, yeah, Demolition, I was never a huge fan, I think mostly because... And I'm probably going to take a lot of flack for saying this, but it looked like some old guys with slick back hair with face paint on. And so unlike the Road Warriors, they weren't these powerhouse dominating psychopaths as much as,
They weren't from the mean streets of Chicago, that's for sure.
They were from parts unknown.
They were from parts unknown. Mean streets of parts unknown, I guess.
They'd been in parts unknown for quite a while, apparently.
Next up, Master of the Unknown, Papa Shango.
Oh, yeah.
Made Ultimate Warrior's face paint melt off of him.
Yeah, that was one of the main things I remember about Papa Shango was him and Ultimate Warrior's feud. Some of the weirdest stuff that has ever come out of wrestling, honestly.
Yeah. When he hit him with the scepter and then he made his face paint melt, and then it's just crazy. Possessed
there's this stuff pouring down Warrior's face.
Yeah,
and he's just screaming. I was like, no.
Of course, that was just Warrior and Warrior.
Well, Papa Shango. I just think it's a cool character to have. Like, I mean, if you're doing characters, you can't go wrong with like a voodoo priest.
Yeah, and he looked the part. I mean, he looked,
Yeah, and you would not, other than knowing. Like, you wouldn't think that later he would become the Godfather.
That's true.
Hey, pimping ain't easy and neither is voodoo.
Yeah, I know. From voodoo dolls to hoe trains.
There you go. And speaking of...
Hoe trains?
Hoe trains. Well, no. But first we have some honorable mentions before we get to number 1.
Okay.
WWE does a lot of guys who are from places that aren't real... But not necessarily parts unknown, and we here in Developmental Talent pride ourselves in accuracy. So, guys like Gangrel or guys like the Boogeyman, who's from the other side of your dreams or something like that. I mean, that's not a place, but it's not parts unknown. I think I think at one point in time, Cactus Jack, way in his early career, was even billed as from parts unknown. But it became Truth and Consequences.
Yeah, Truth.
Undertaker being from Death Valley, it's obviously Death Valley, California, but
Yeah. And characters like that, like Gangrel and like the Boogeyman, it seems like making up where they're from, it just works better when you're trying to explain these creepy characters who have no, I don't know, like, yeah, Gangrel's from fucking Wisconsin, and
Yeah, I mean, there's no vampires in Wisconsin.
It's
Don't think.
I mean, where a character's from could also like make the character.
Yeah.
Like for instance, Deuce and Domino, they were built from the other side of the tracks.
Other side of the tracks. Yep.
Yeah.
And Cherry too. She was with him.
That's right.
Yep. Number 1, guy from Parts Unknown. The ultimate guy from Parts Unknown. The Ultimate Warrior. Bobby Heenan said that he is from Parts Unknown because no one wanted to admit he was from there. No place wanted him to be from there. I think it's because Ultimate Warrior is too awesome to be from any one place.
Yeah, I mean, Warrior, I believe, is the only wrestler I've ever heard to actually talk about Parts Unknown. Like, he'd be in a promo, and, like, the one where he talked about taking over Hulk Hogan's plane.
Oh, yeah, nosediving it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, terroristic threats.
Killing pilots and blowing up a plane. That's the Ultimate Warrior for you.
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior. Elephants trampling him and lawnmowers on
Lawnmowers.
his chest.
Yep.
The guy trained hard in Parts Unknown.
Well, I mean, you got to. Blow up the ship with rocket fuel, maybe.
Yeah.
When the Parts Unknown.
But in all seriousness, his passing was a sad event this year.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. It was an eerie event, too. Especially considering if you look at the things he said, not even 12 hours before.
I will openly, honestly admit, I actually cried. Growing up, loving Ultimate Warrior in that era, I mean, it hurt me. I honestly cried.
Well, it's a piece of your childhood. It's like any of these guys. If you look at these guys, they're all, I mean, even the Ultimate Warrior, they're all guys who are, like, harking back to the days where, you could win the Intercontinental title match in a tournament that happened in Rio de Janeiro that never happened. Back when wrestling was more of it was more mystical, like.
Yes.
And the Warrior is kind of the last one of those guys, and it is kind of a shame,
Yeah, and for everyone who harped on, oh, he couldn't wrestle, and oh, he could only do so many moves and all this, and the same thing can be said for Hogan and now for Cena and all this. It doesn't matter, because 20 years from now, when something happens to these guys, the fans of them growing up are not remembering them because of their matches. They're remembering them because of their character. And the Ultimate Warrior lived his character.
Yeah. I mean, he absolutely even had his name changed to Warrior.
Yes.
It just so happens he lived it in Parts Unknown. And that's this week's Figure 5.
The Declaration of Independence.
Here we are again for the Declaration of Independence. Normally we try to cover a wide variety of independent promotions, but this week we're pretty much going to concentrate on Lucha Underground. We recently all watched the first episode that aired on the Rey Network Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. And I have to say, mighty fucking impressed.
Yeah, they have like sitcom level cinematography coming into the intro for it. And you don't even know it's a wrestling show until like 30 seconds into the intro. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like the storylines look almost like a crime drama or something.
Yeah.
That you're watching. Match quality, amazing. And it's the atmosphere that they've created for where they have the show. It's just awesome.
The arena they've built, it uses a bleacher system, which causes the people to sit quite a bit higher than the people behind them. So it looks a lot fuller. It keeps that like kind of basement underground parking fighting club thing going. It's pretty fantastic.
I think my favorite part about the arena is the mat itself, though, because it looks like a mat with guys. It looks like if you touch it, you get staph. But I mean,
yeah.
it's not. But that's what it looks like.
Talking about the ring, just the noises the ring would make, how when they hit and everything, it's made it sound like it was an older ring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell it's not a live broadcast, but at the same time, they're not making it seem like they're trying to trick you into believing that it's all live. The vignettes are obviously taped far in advance, but they use great camera work, great filters. I mean, it's just a nice looking overall presentation.
And as far as commentary, you got Matt Striker, who you might remember from being in WWE. He was there for a while. Actually, very excellent. And Vampiro, who was cool to see Vampiro on anything.
Yeah, I mean, at first I didn't recognize Vampiro. He's aged some, but I mean, he's a legend.
Yeah.
In all different ways.
Yeah, and especially in that scene.
Oh yeah, down Lucha Libre down in Mexico and everything.
Another thing I was surprised, it being on the Rey Network, I expected there to be a lot more Spanish, maybe some subtitles, but it's all generally English.
Yeah.
With a little bit of Spanish tossed in.
And they will subtitle some of the workers who have more of a heavy accent. They'll still get subtitles, but it's not so bad that, it's like you're going to read a wrestling program. It's really, I think they're trying to appeal to a very broad base.
Oh, yeah.
That like AAA or CMLL maybe doesn't tap into because they don't have to.
Yeah, and Stryker's great on commentary. Very much the WWE style. He's covering a lot of the storyline, more so than kind of what's going on in the ring to a point. But that's where Vampiro comes in. He's able to toss out the names of the moves, what's going on, some of the history of the wrestlers.
Yeah, I thought it was sort of the opposite of what you normally you get the wrestler who is like the story guy and the guy who does like the jokes and things, and then you got the play-by-play guy who's the move guy. It's sort of reversed in this case, where Vampiro is like the technical-minded move guy, and Stryker's moving the storylines along.
Yeah.
The entire basis for the show. There's a man named Dario Cueto, who is the owner of the arena.
He calls it his temple.
His temple.
His temple.
Yep. His temple for violence that he seems to like a lot. And he's put out contracts for luchadors to come and wrestle for him from AAA and all over the world. And has offered up a $100,000 bonus for the main event of the first show.
Yeah, which was Johnny Mundo, who you may know as John Morrison from WWE. They call him Johnny Mundo, and then they immediately show you who he is. That way you know it's Morrison. It's not.
Yeah.
In
Prince Puma.
Prince Puma. Yeah.
Who is trained by Conan.
Yep. Yeah, and Conan's his acting manager in the show.
I think Prince Puma, he could be their guy. He has a cool tattoo on one arm. He has a really cool look. He doesn't look like he's in good shape, and it looks like he's the guy that they're going to maybe try to build a company around to make their guy.
The show started out between two legends in Mexican history of wrestling. Chavo Guerrero, my bad. And Blue Demon Jr.
Yep.
Well, it was Chavo. Well, Chavo Jr. is what WWE called him, but yeah.
Yeah, and two extremely famous wrestling lineages, especially in the case of Blue Demon.
Oh yes.
Blue Demon Jr., who is actually kind of an older gentleman himself nowadays.
Yes, he is actually 48.
48.
That mask covers up those wrinkles.
It does, and you wouldn't know. I mean, you can kind of tell from looking at him. He's a little older, but it's not like the match was Chavo carrying him or anything. It was a good match.
Yeah, it was a very good match for both gentlemen kind of up there. They still had a pretty good high-paced match.
Yep. Blue Demon Jr. came out on top. It looks like the current storyline is that Dario wants Blue Demon destroyed. Why he would invite him to come wrestle for him, I don't quite know. So they're bringing in a new challenger on the next episode, this coming Wednesday. There's a backstage vignette where he kind of browbeats Chavo for losing. And another really well shot vignette.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It looked like he'd been shot, and it may have, but it looked like he'd been shot immediately after the match. Chavo still had sweat. You know, it was in the locker room. It was good.
Next up, we've got the Son of Havoc
Yes.
against Sexy Star.
Who has a backstory that, I mean, okay, to understand Lucha Libre, you gotta understand these guys are sort of superheroes in a sense. So her backstory is she was depressed and was contemplating, you know, taking her life. And then she realized that she could be a strong woman for all the women, and all women are sexy stars, and so that's why she calls herself that. And she's gonna fight dudes.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, something you'll probably never see again in WWE. I don't believe TNA even does it anymore. There's a few promotions. I know AIW. Occasionally they'll have women versus men. I actually watched a match the other day. It was Veda Scott.
Yeah, Ring of Honor's Veda Scott.
Against like 5 other guys. They had this like scramble match kind of thing.
Yeah.
One thing I like is that they played her up just as a wrestler. They didn't overemphasize the fact that she was a woman. Even Stryker on commentary didn't. They had a good back and forth match. Son of Havoc came out on top.
But it wasn't because he was fighting a woman.
No, it was just because he was a way larger competitor.
Yeah. It was more like a Rey Mysterio type match than it was a dude beating up a chick. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, she was competitive the whole time. It looked like she was dominating a lot of the match. Even
While the name Sexy Star is unfortunate, I feel like it takes away from the legitimacy. With that backstory, I mean, you can't overly argue it, so it's just, I mean, maybe it'll grow on me, maybe it won't.
Yeah, and she does have a point. I guess she's doing the whole every girl's a sexy star. It's what's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And she represents everybody.
But it makes me look forward to see what female competitors Lucha Underground employs next, for sure.
Yeah. I actually read that they have Avalise from Tough Enough. So, you know, she was always pretty good.
The big match of the night was, of course, the main event of Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma for the, well, supposedly for $100,000
Right.
if they were to impress the owner. This kicked off vignettes showing Prince Puma and his training. Went on for a while. Yes.
Yeah, but again, they're hopping Prince Puma. You know, he's gonna be their guy. So, but it's a very, very good match.
Very good match.
Very good match.
In ring, out of the ring, there was a cool spot where Johnny Mundo leaped over the table.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
The flip
table.
over the table
Yeah.
and over Prince Puma to land on his feet behind him.
Yeah. They don't really like Mundo works roughly the same style he worked when he was in WWE. The real high impact,
Yeah.
you know, sort of floaty style. Puma works sort of the same style, but it's not. It's like he's kind of got like a mixture of a bunch of different styles of wrestling.
Yeah, he's definitely very quick, but it doesn't look like he's wasting momentum. You know,
Right.
everything he's doing is for a reason. I really like his look overall. His mask, the gauntlets, his tights, all of it's good. Mundo basically wearing the exact same stuff he wore in WWE, down to the coat and glasses, to the slow motion pose when he comes out with the fan. Like, I mean, but people know him as that, and he can still use it, so, you know, why not? He also uses Starship Pain as his finisher, which is how he beat Prince Puma, but it's not Starship Pain anymore, it's End of the World.
Fine Mundo.
Yeah, it's like end of the world or end of time or something like that.
End of the world, because Johnny Mundo, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, End of the World. But it turned out great. After it was over, Mundo lifted up Prince Puma, you know, shook his hand, held it up, you know, showing that they're both, you know, they respect each other, all that. Dario Cueto comes out with his briefcase, opens it for Johnny Mundo, and then slams it shut. And then pulls a total Vince McMahon as unknown assailants come in the ring and beat the dog shit out of the other two.
One of which is Ezekiel Jackson, called Big Rick here. He is huge in this because everybody's so small.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's that or just he's just gotten super big. Because I remember, like, WWE, he did not look that big.
Well, he looks massive in Lucha Underground.
Yeah. And he ends up getting the briefcase at the end because he is the one who impressed Cueto the most. And also he makes the announcement that if you thought it was only luchadores that were in Lucha Underground, you were mistaken. It's fighters from all over the world.
Yeah.
So this is very much a Street Fighter situation, people.
Yes.
Which makes it kind of awesome.
It's incredibly awesome. Zico Jetson might have got the $100,000, but we get weekly awesome Lucha Underground, which is a pretty good trade, I feel like.
Yes, assuming you can watch it. As we're in our area, the Rey Network, not so easy to get a hold of.
But it's definitely worth the effort to go through. And
Indeed.
Oh, yes.
They put their first match, the main event, the Mundo and Prince Puma match up, actually, on their website on YouTube, as a way to get people to watch it and put hype for it.
Yeah, it's up free. It's 18 minutes. Not overly long, but tons of athleticism. The entire show runs about 46 minutes without advertisements. But in that amount of time, you get a lot of story and some really good matches. So it's definitely worth your time to give Lucha Underground a shot.
Absolutely. It's not... Don't go into it thinking you're watching like Superstars or anything for an hour. It's a completely different style, completely different wrestlers, but it's absolutely worth your time. You definitely should check it out.
Oh, yes, definitely. If you're a fan of the high-flying style, check this out. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah.
And that's it for this week's Declaration of Independence.
All right, that's another episode in the can. I want to thank you guys for listening. This is Brandon Vanhook.
Lemon Juice McGee.
Matt Pierce.
And Hogie Masters.
And we'll see you next week.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening to Developmental Talent, but the show doesn't stop here. For more insane ramblings, be sure to check us out on social media. The links are conveniently listed in the text. Also, feel free to send your hatred, praise, and suggestions